Hello, welcome to today's video diary for Finding My Way with Pi, Purpose, Intention, and Emotion. I have to admit, I have swirling emotions today. Today was one of those days that felt like big emotional days for at least 3 out of 4 of us in our little nuclear family here. I had some stuff I was thinking about. My daughter had some stuff going on. My son had some stuff going on. It was like one of those days where it's like, man, it's just kind of feeling heavy and exhausting and a lot of things happening. I'm not going to go into the detail of everything that happened today, but I want to acknowledge a couple of things about today that I think were helpful revelations. And I don't think they're all necessarily connected to each other. They seem a little bit separate, but three things. Having a safe enough place to be yourself and say the hard things even if they're ugly. Number 1. Number 2, recognizing a pattern of association that your brain makes with certain things. And number 3, taking the opportunity to go and apologize and own if you mishandled something or you handled something in a way you're not proud of, and to share what your intention was to begin with, and then to learn. So the first one, having a safe place to say things that you're feeling even if it feels ugly. I think that it's very scary to do this as a human, because sometimes what we feel may feel like unfair to others, or it may feel like it's in conflict with how you believe you should feel. I'll give you an example. How you may love your mom, but you're mad at her about something or for something, and you feel like you can't be mad at her because you love her. That like anger and love cannot coexist. I think that this is a trap many of us get into and don't know how to handle in a relationship. And I actually don't think that this is that this only happens to parent-child relationships. I think it happens in friendships. I think it happens in marriages or with partners, colleagues. It's like we don't know how, or we're not taught well how, or we don't even really see it modeled well how to have love and anger coexist. And then what do you do with that anger, and how do you work it out together? So having that psychologically safe place takes both people. It takes the person who feels angry courage and bravery on their part to say it, because you know they don't mean to hurt anyone else. It's just they feel that way. They don't know what to do with it. It takes the other person to whom the anger is directed at to be mature enough to recognize that those emotions are coming from the other person, and that they truly feel the way they feel, and to be brave enough to listen and understand why, and to take an honest look at yourself. Sometimes it's a matter of explanation, and the person who feels angry maybe gets a chance to understand and know that they feel angry at the same time. They get a chance to be heard, and it accepts themselves, and they can accept themselves and how they're feeling. And then the anger can, instead of locking in for them, can let go. Anyways, just a psychologically safe place. And that takes both parties. The second thing was patterns of association. During my video diary yesterday, I talked about my struggle with Christmas. And today I was listening to Mel Robbins' book, Kick Ass, where she's coaching people, and it's the recorded session of their coaching session. And one of the things she pointed out was that our brains make associations with things. And the simple example was like if you say peanut butter, majority of people automatically think jelly, peanut butter jelly. If you say salt, the majority of people associate it salt and pepper. Black and white. I don't know. You could probably think of a ton of other word associations that you do. Well, the same thing happens with emotions and events. Sometimes people and emotions, we make an association. Money is one that we make an association with emotions on. The one I want to talk about is related to my struggle with Christmas. I had what felt like the memory I explained in the video diary yesterday. Go check it out to watch it if you want to hear it. I don't want to rehash it all right now. But the memory I explained described a traumatic experience one Christmas morning when I was a young teenager. And I realized from that moment on, and then even after my dad passed away, because Christmas was crying and sadness after that. Again, that happened when I was a young teenager as well. I began to associate Christmas with pain and depression and sadness and hurt and maybe even a little anger. I began to associate Christmas with like trauma. So even when I don't go back home to visit with my family who still lives back home, even here in my own home, if it's just the four of us, inevitably there's at some point on Christmas Day that I find myself sitting somewhere quietly crying. It's hard to admit. It makes me feel like I'm crazy. But if I never own this and recognize that pattern association that I have with Christmas, I don't get an opportunity to heal from it. And I'll continue to run from that for the rest of my life. So I have to own this part of my story. I think it's okay for me to say Christmas is hard for me, and I'm going to learn how to associate new, better things. So when the Christmas blues comes up, I can go, oh, that is a pattern. I know what that's rooted in. It was associated with these things. I'm here now, and I am going to associate Christmas in this moment with what feels good right now and what's here right now. So it is an acknowledgement of what was there in my story, and it's an intervention and an opportunity to let it heal and let it become something else. The third thing I want to reflect on is coming back to someone when you've had an interaction and maybe you're not super proud of how you handled something. This was an interaction I had with my son, and thought about it, and I thought, man, he just seems to not feel great after we have this interaction. It's something that's repeated. Maybe other parents can relate to this, but arguments over food and eating healthy meals. And it's difficult with a picky eater. And it's like we've done so much teaching around nutrition, and I know he knows better, but he still chooses not nutritious meals. He's young enough that we still need to guide on this, and old enough that he knows better. So it's really challenging. So I didn't feel proud about the interaction that we had around it. I don't want him to feel bad about himself here. It's a learning experience. So I was able to go back to him and talk to him about this is why it's important to me, but I see that happening. Tell me what you're feeling in that situation, and then explain to him why just from my perspective, what I see. But here's the most important part. What I was able to say is we had this argument over this one thing. And I don't always do a good job acknowledging the good things I see, but I do see them. So I want to share those with you now. That's what I told him. And I acknowledged what I see he's doing at school. I acknowledged how I saw he was approaching his flag football differently and that he felt better about himself that way. I acknowledged how he helped out with some of the chores without being asked. I acknowledged the good things. And I said, I don't tell you those things enough, and we should celebrate those things too. Putting it into context. This is just this one area I know we're working on. And so my frustration over that doesn't negate or wipe out all of the other good things that I see. I see you. And I love you. I'm so glad I took that opportunity today to come back to something, to say, I'm not proud of the way I handled an interaction earlier today, and I'm sorry for that. I think it made you feel bad, and that was not my intention, but I see that I did that, and I am sorry. And it was a calm conversation, lots of hugs. I'm so glad I went back to that. I think about this often as I'm healing from, not that what happened today was this big, trauma-inducing thing. I don't think it was that. What I'm saying is I see that my lens as an adult, looking back on some things that happened in my childhood, they locked in my body. And I did go through a lot of traumatic things, and I understand that those may lock in differently, but every part of it does lock in somewhere and creates a pattern or a belief or a story or an association that you have with something, and can automatically, subconsciously guide your life. That is part of the human experience. Every single human being has that. And so I can't avoid that, but I'm trying to consciously parent in the way that I behave in a way I'm proud of, that honors my children, and that is all I can do. They are going to get patterns of association and beliefs no matter what I do. I'm not trying to control what they're getting. I'm just trying to guide myself as true as I can, just to give them the best chance. Does that make sense? That is what I'm thinking about today. Those are the things. And like I said, big emotional day. Thanks for being with me on this journey. I am so glad that you're here, and I hope it helps you too. I'll see you tomorrow.